Have you ever found yourself trapped in the relentless echo chamber of your own mind, replaying conv? Have you ever found yourself trapped in the relentless echo chamber of your own mind, replaying conversations, dissecting decisions, or catastrophizing future events until the sheer weight of thought leaves you utterly exhausted? It's a familiar, almost universal experience in our fast-paced, information-saturated world. That nagging voice, the endless what-ifs, the constant analysis of every past interaction and future possibility, it's more than just a fleeting worry. It's a deeply ingrained psychological pattern that can silently erode our mental well-being, steal our peace, and paralyze our potential. But what if I told you that this relentless mental chatter isn't an unchangeable part of who you are? What if there's a profound science behind why our minds get stuck in these loops, and more importantly, a clear path to breaking free? Join us as we delve into the intricate psychology of overthinking, uncover the neuroscience of a restless mind, and equip you with powerful, evidence-based techniques to reclaim your mental clarity and transform your relationship with your thoughts. This isn't just about stopping a bad habit. It's about understanding the very architecture of your inner world and learning to navigate it with intention and peace. Overthinking, at its core, is the excessive and often unproductive rumination on past events or future uncertainties. It's when our minds become stuck in a repetitive cycle of analysis, worry, and self-doubt, often without leading to any constructive outcome or solution. While a certain degree of reflection and planning is essential for navigating life, overthinking crosses a critical line, transforming healthy introspection into a debilitating mental loop. This isn't a rare phenomenon. It's a silent epidemic of the mind, affecting countless individuals across the globe. It manifests differently for everyone. For some, it's the constant replaying of conversations, dissecting every word and gesture. For others, it's an incessant worry about potential future disasters, no matter how improbable. The common thread is a mind that struggles to disengage, to find stillness, and to trust its own capacity for action and resolution. In this deep dive, we will explore the fundamental question of why we overthink, unravel the complex neuroscience that underpins these mental patterns, draw a crucial distinction between productive thinking and destructive overthinking, and finally, provide you with actionable, practical techniques to break free from its grip. Our journey will be rooted in the latest psychological research and scientific understanding, offering you not just surface-level tips, but a profound comprehension of your own mind. So, why do our minds get caught in these relentless cycles? The answer lies deep within our evolutionary wiring and the intricate workings of our cognitive processes. One of the primary culprits is the presence of cognitive biases, which act like distorting lenses through which our brains interpret reality. Consider the negativity bias, an evolutionary predisposition that makes us more attuned to threats and potential dangers. In ancient times, this bias was crucial for survival, helping our ancestors identify predators or hazards. Today, in a world largely devoid of saber-toothed tigers, this same wiring can cause us to fixate on a single negative comment, allowing it to overshadow 10 positive ones, or to endlessly replay a minor social misstep. Our brains are constantly scanning for what could go wrong, and in the absence of immediate physical threats, this vigilance often turns inward, scrutinizing our own thoughts and actions. Closely related is catastrophizing, the tendency to assume the worst possible outcome in any given situation. Imagine sending an important email and not receiving an immediate reply. A catastrophizing mind might instantly jump to conclusions. They're ignoring me, I must have made a huge mistake, I'm going to be fired. This leap to the most dire scenario, often without any supporting evidence, is a hallmark of overthinking. Furthermore, confirmation bias plays a subtle but powerful role. Once we latch onto a worry or a negative belief, our minds tend to seek out and interpret information in a way that confirms that belief, creating a self-reinforcing loop that makes it incredibly difficult to break free. We inadvertently gather evidence that supports our fears, further entrenching the overthinking pattern. Perhaps one of the most insidious aspects of overthinking is its symbiotic relationship with anxiety, forming what we call the anxiety-overthinking loop. These two are often two sides of the same coin, constantly feeding into each other. When we overanalyze, we often conjure up hypothetical scenarios that trigger our anxiety. For instance, we might obsessively imagine a work presentation going terribly wrong, meticulously detailing every potential misstep. This vivid, anxious projection then fuels even more overthinking, as we desperately try to strategize and plan how to avoid this imagined disaster. It's a self-perpetuating cycle that is incredibly difficult to break. Consider the case of Sarah, a marketing manager, who spent weeks agonizing over an upcoming client pitch. She replayed every possible mistake in her head, every awkward pause, every critical question. This intense overanalysis made her so nervous that, ironically, she stumbled during the actual presentation. Her anxiety, now validated by her perceived failure, grew exponentially, leading her to overthink the next pitch even more intensely. 1. This isn't just anecdotal. A 2018 study published in Behavior Research and Therapy found a significant link between chronic overanalyzing and the development of chronic anxiety. 1. The more we overthink, the more anxious we become, and the more anxious we become, the more our minds feel compelled to overthink in a desperate, albeit misguided, attempt to regain control. Stress acts as a powerful accelerant in this cycle. Chronic stress keeps our bodies and minds in a perpetual state of heightened alert, triggering the ancient fight or flight response. In this state, our minds are primed to detect threats, and overthinking becomes a default coping mechanism, an attempt to mentally prepare for every conceivable negative outcome. This constant state of vigilance is exhausting and counterproductive. The relentless mental activity associated with overthinking leads to an elevated release of stress hormones, particularly cortisol. This surge of cortisol, intended for short-term emergency responses, creates a physiological feedback loop that sustains anxiety and keeps the brain in a state of alert, making it even harder to quiet the mind. 2. This isn't just a mental burden. It manifests physically, contributing to symptoms like persistent headaches, muscle tension, and a general feeling of being unwell. 2. Beyond these immediate cognitive and physiological factors, our past experiences and personality traits also play a significant role in predisposing us to overthinking. Trauma, for instance, can fundamentally alter the brain's response to perceived threats. Individuals who have experienced past traumatic events may develop a brain that is constantly trying to predict and prevent future harm. This hypervigilance can manifest as what some psychologists refer to as weird worries or intrusive thoughts, unsettling, often bizarre scenarios that pop into the mind, seemingly out of nowhere, as the brain attempts to anticipate and neutralize any potential danger. 3. It's a protective mechanism gone awry, constantly scanning the horizon for storms that may never arrive. Interpersonal dynamics can also be a fertile ground for overthinking. If you are a deeply empathetic and conscientious individual, you might find yourself overanalyzing interactions, especially in relationships where there's an imbalance. When dealing with an emotionally unavailable person, for example, your reality and their reality can clash dramatically. Your introspection and desire to understand their perspective might be met with defensiveness or an inability to acknowledge your viewpoint. This can lead to intense self-doubt and excessive analysis, as you question your own perceptions and actions, desperately trying to make sense of an inherently confusing dynamic. 3. The constant effort to decipher ambiguous signals or reconcile conflicting realities can trap you in an exhausting loop of mental reprocessing. Furthermore, significant sense of self issues can emerge during major life transitions, such as a career change, a divorce, or moving to a new city. Even positive changes can be destabilizing. When our identity, which is often tied to our roles, relationships, and routines, undergoes a substantial shift, it can temporarily erode our self-esteem. Questions like, am I doing the right thing? Am I cut out for this? Or, am I good enough? Become pervasive. This period of self-doubt and uncertainty can trigger a surge of overthinking as we try to re-establish our footing and integrate new aspects into our sense of self. 3. It's a natural, albeit uncomfortable, process of reconsolidation, but one that can feel overwhelming when trapped in a cycle of endless analysis. Finally, our attachment styles, formed in early childhood, can significantly influence our propensity for overthinking. Individuals with high attachment anxiety, for instance, are often characterized by a deep-seated fear of abandonment and a constant need for reassurance. This can manifest as increased rumination, as they obsessively analyze their relationships, searching for signs of rejection or affirmation, and replaying interactions to ensure they haven't made a mistake. 4. The inherent worry and hypervigilance associated with anxious attachment can make overthinking a default mode of operation, a desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable aspects of human connection. Now, let's shift our focus from the psychological triggers to the very machinery of the mind itself. What happens in our brains when we overthink? To understand this, we must first define rumination, a term often used interchangeably with overthinking, but which carries a slightly more clinical connotation. Rumination is not just general thinking, it is a compulsive, repetitive focus on negative thoughts, often centered on past failures, perceived threats, or future anxieties, without leading to any clear solution or constructive action. 4. It's the mind spinning its wheels, generating heat but no forward motion. Psychologists also refer to this as perseverative thinking or perseverative cognition, highlighting its persistent and often unproductive nature. 4. At the heart of this restless mind lies the default mode network, DMN, a fascinating collection of brain regions that become active when we are not focused on the outside world, when we are daydreaming, reflecting, or, indeed, overthinking. The DMN is crucial for self-referential thought, introspection, and mind-wandering. However, in individuals prone to rumination, this network can become hyperactive, leading to an excessive focus on internal thoughts and emotions, often negative ones. It's like having an internal monologue that never switches off, constantly narrating and analyzing every aspect of your existence. While the DMN is essential for self-awareness, an overactive DMN can trap us in endless loops of self-criticism and worry. Another key player is the prefrontal cortex, PFC, the brain's executive control center, responsible for decision-making, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. In overthinking, the PFC, particularly its dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, DMPFC, region, can become entangled in the ruminative process. Studies, including one from Stanford University on the brain mechanics of rumination, have begun to shed light on how specific activity patterns in these regions contribute to repetitive thinking. 5. Further research on the neural correlates of rumination in depression has highlighted the DMPFC's role, suggesting it acts as a dynamic functional connectivity marker for rumination. 6. 7. When the PFC struggles to disengage from these loops, it becomes harder to shift attention away from negative thoughts, to make decisions, or to regulate our emotional responses effectively. It's a vicious cycle where the very part of our brain designed to help us navigate complex thoughts becomes overwhelmed by them. This neurological entanglement has a profound impact on brain chemistry. As mentioned earlier, prolonged overthinking triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol. This isn't just a fleeting response. Chronic elevation of cortisol can actually alter brain structure and function over time, making us more susceptible to anxiety and depression. The brain, perceiving a constant state of threat due to the relentless internal chatter, remains in a high alert mode, leading to a cascade of physiological effects. This constant internal stress can manifest as physical symptoms such as persistent headaches, chronic muscle tension, digestive issues, and even a weakened immune system. 2. The mind and body are inextricably linked, and a restless mind inevitably leads to a stressed body. It's crucial to understand that not all deep thinking is detrimental. There's a fine, yet critical, line between productive thinking and destructive overthinking. Healthy reflection, for instance, involves purposeful analysis, where we engage with our thoughts to learn from experiences, solve problems, and plan for the future. It's a process characterized by curiosity, a search for solutions, and a willingness to adapt. This kind of thinking leads to growth, innovation, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It has a clear beginning, middle, and end, culminating in insights or decisions. In stark contrast, rumination, the hallmark of destructive overthinking, is repetitive, circular thinking that offers no new insights or solutions. It's often focused on negative emotions, perceived threats, or past mistakes, without any constructive outcome. Instead of moving forward, the mind simply goes around and around, rehashing the same thoughts and worries. This distinction is vital. Productive thinking empowers us, while destructive overthinking drains us. When thinking becomes counterproductive, it often leads to decision paralysis. The fear of making the wrong choice becomes so overwhelming that we make no choice at all, leaving us stuck and unable to progress. 1. This inaction, born from excessive analysis, can be just as damaging as making a poor decision, as opportunities are missed and progress stalls. Furthermore, destructive overthinking amplifies negative emotions. Instead of leading to clarity or resolution, it intensifies anxiety, sadness, anger, and frustration. The constant mental rehashing keeps us tethered to these unpleasant feelings, preventing us from moving towards emotional well-being. As the renowned psychologist Dr. Susan Nolan Hochseimer, who extensively studied rumination, famously put it, overthinking is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do but gets you nowhere. 1. It expends immense mental energy without yielding any tangible results. This also impacts our cognitive flexibility, making it difficult to switch attention to new tasks, adapt to changing circumstances, or consider alternative perspectives. 4. The mind becomes rigid, locked into its familiar patterns of worry and analysis. The good news is that we are not condemned to a life of endless mental chatter. There are powerful, evidence-based practical techniques to break the cycle of overthinking and reclaim your mental peace. One of the most effective approaches is through mindfulness and present moment awareness. Mindfulness is the practice of intentionally focusing on the present moment, observing our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without judgment. It's about cultivating a gentle awareness of what is happening right now, rather than getting swept away by the currents of past regrets or future anxieties. By training ourselves to anchor our attention in the present, we can significantly reduce the mental noise that fuels worry and rumination. Research published in Mindfulness Journal in 2021 demonstrated that regular mindfulness practice can decrease rumination by up to 30%. 1. Simple exercises like deep breathing, where you focus solely on the sensation of your breath entering and leaving your body, or a body scan, where you systematically bring awareness to different parts of your body, can be incredibly effective. Mindful observation of your surroundings, truly noticing the sights, sounds, and smells around you, can also pull your attention away from internal loops and into the external world. Another powerful strategy involves cognitive restructuring, which is about challenging and reframing our thoughts. The first crucial step is thought awareness, simply recognizing when you are overthinking. 8. This sounds simple, but it requires practice. Start by noticing the patterns of your thoughts. Are they repetitive? Are they negative? Are they leading anywhere productive? Once you identify an overthinking loop, you can then engage in fact versus assumption analysis. Write down the thoughts that are bothering you and ask yourself, is this based on concrete facts, or am I making assumptions? 1. Often, we discover that our worries are built on shaky ground, fueled by assumptions rather than evidence. Challenge catastrophic or negative interpretations by actively seeking alternative explanations. For example, if your boss didn't smile at you, instead of assuming they're angry, consider other possibilities. Perhaps they're preoccupied, tired, or simply having a bad day. Detached mindfulness is a technique where you observe your thoughts without engaging with them. Imagine your thoughts as clouds passing in the sky. You notice them, but you don't jump on them and ride them away. You simply let them pass. 8. This creates a healthy distance between you and your thoughts, preventing them from consuming you. Furthermore, try to swap why with how. 9. Instead of endlessly dwelling on why something happened, which often leads to blame or regret, shift your focus to how you can move forward, solve a problem, or prevent a similar situation in the future. This subtle shift transforms unproductive rumination into constructive problem solving. Beyond these mental techniques, behavioral strategies can provide concrete ways to interrupt the overthinking cycle. Time-blocking decisions is a highly effective method. For important choices, allocate a specific, limited amount of time, say, 10 or 15 minutes, to consider the options. Once that time is up, make a decision and commit to it, even if it's not perfect. 1. This prevents endless deliberation. Journaling is another powerful tool. Externalizing your thoughts by writing them down can reduce their power and help you identify recurring patterns or irrational beliefs. 1. Seeing your worries on paper can make them seem less overwhelming and more manageable. Consider implementing a worry time. Designate a specific 15-minute period each day, perhaps in the late afternoon, for all your worrying. If anxious thoughts arise outside this designated time, gently tell yourself, "I'll deal with this later, during my worry time." This trains your brain to postpone and contain worry, preventing it from hijacking your entire day. 1. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, take action, even if small. Overthinking often leads to inaction and decision paralysis. To break this, identify one tiny, manageable task related to your worry, like sending an email, making a phone call, or taking a single step towards a larger goal. Completing even a small action can build momentum, instill a sense of control, and disrupt the paralysis that overthinking creates. 1. Alongside these specific techniques, general stress management techniques are invaluable. Grounding techniques, such as the 5-4-3-2-1 method, can quickly bring your focus back to the present moment. Name 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This engages your senses and pulls your attention away from internal mental loops. 1. Regular physical activity is a potent antidote to stress and overthinking, releasing endorphins and shifting your mental focus. Even short periods of meditation, as little as 5 minutes a day, can significantly calm the mind and improve your ability to manage intrusive thoughts. 1. We've journeyed through the intricate landscape of overthinking, from its subtle psychological triggers and deep evolutionary roots to the complex neurological mechanisms that keep our minds restless. We've distinguished between the productive reflection that fosters growth and the destructive rumination that paralyzes us. And most importantly, we've armed you with a powerful arsenal of practical, evidence-based techniques, from mindfulness and cognitive restructuring to behavioral strategies and stress management, all designed to help you reclaim your mental peace. Breaking the cycle of overthinking is not an overnight fix. It is a journey that requires patience, consistent effort, and a compassionate understanding of your own mind. But with each conscious choice to observe your thoughts, to challenge your assumptions, and to gently guide your attention back to the present, you are building new neural pathways, strengthening your capacity for mental clarity, and cultivating a profound sense of inner calm. The freedom that comes from reclaiming your mind from the grip of overthinking is immeasurable. It allows you to engage with the world not through the distorting lens of fear and endless analysis, but with the clarity of intention, the wisdom of presence, and the courage to act. The quiet mind is not an empty mind, but a mind at peace, ready to engage with the world not through the lens of fear, but with the clarity of intention. The choice, as always, is yours. Embrace it, and step into a life where your thoughts serve you, rather than enslave you.